For those of you who work with fate magic or would call yourself like fate practitioners, as the past, present, and the future, coming to the crossroads, having to make decisions. I also speak on fate as like fate, presence, and change. Let's talk about some of the astrology that can be helpful for working with fate and or weaving fate, creating fate sort of stuff. The first one is definitely going to be look for when a placement gets to the end of its transit through a sign. We call the 29th degree usually the critical degree. Personally, I call this the death degree because what happens when you get to the end of your life and you have the privilege, the time, and the energy, and the resources and everything that you need to do this? You're making sure that everything that you have is going where it needs to go so that you can pass on. Same thing happens with the transits. So if there's anything at the end of a transit that you have been weaving and creating throughout that transit of that planet through that sign, the 29th degree, okay, now it's time. Here it is. If it's gonna arrive, it's gonna arrive right now. Pluto right now is in Capricorn at 29 degrees, and it's gonna be there until November 19th. So if you've been weaving anything for 16 years, hopefully you receive it soon. Some big fates this November, I have a feeling. I just have a feeling it's gonna be a very fated November, okay? Moving on. Any sort of conjunction in the transits that have to do with you and your placements, like anything important in your chart. Usually this is going to be the sign that rules most of your chart and those planetary rulers. For example, I am someone who has a Scorpio sun, I have a Scorpio stellium, there's a lot of Scorpio in my chart, all right? So anytime that there's Pluto conjunctions for me, anything that's conjunct with Pluto, sometimes Mars too, okay, that's true. Mars and Pluto for me, when there's things conjunct in our transits of Mars and Pluto, because Scorpio is a chart ruler for me, something fated happens. So look at your chart ruler, look at those planets, and then pay attention to when there's conjunctions with those transits, for sure. There's also a couple placements in the chart that you can look at. The fortune is literally like a crossing of fate. One of the ways that the vertex can be read, and these are lesser placements, they're not pulled on like every single app, but I pulled these on Astro-Seek. There's a lot of other websites, that's just the one that I personally use. Not sponsored, just love them. So the fortune is like the lesser fate being like it moves very swiftly, and you have to have the eye for it, because if you don't have the eye for it, it's going to pick up and move on and go somewhere else. It'll be given to somebody else. So learning how to read that. And then the vertex, one of the ways that I read the vertex is like it's a really big fate. You got to climb a mountain, you got to put a lot of work in, you got to do a lot of back work and preparation stuff. And when that vertex is anytime that it's active, you're probably working on something with that sort of big fate that you're in at the moment. But if you're noticing any of the transits that cross over your vertex or are conjunct like on your vertex or near it, okay, track those two. Conjunctions at the same degree as your rising sign, for sure, because the rising sign's gonna usher things into your life. So that would be like, normally we think about fate as like we are receiving something, or maybe that's just how I normally think about fate. Sometimes it's things leaving low. Those would be the conjunctions with your descendant. Anytime that you have conjunctions in the chart, okay? And then also, I did just write a blog on the wells, the 3 wells that are under the tree. There's the Well of Fate. This is how I read them. This is how I work with them. The Well of Fate, the Well of the Mirror, and the Well of the Source of Many Rivers, the Well of Boiling Water. And every single one of those wells holds time differently, even though there is a well of fate, okay? There's also a well of mirrors, which means that the wells mirror each other. So every single well has to do also with fate. So if you're wondering about more of like the magic of fate or the essence of fate, I wrote a whole blog on it a couple of days ago. It's up on the website if you're curious, interested about it. Another resource for you, beautiful. Because I love fate. I love fate. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love fate. I love change. I love presence. I love the well of fate. I love the work of fate. Sometimes it's hard and you're really blind. But I also really love it. So, but astrologically, I didn't mention that in the blog. So astrologically, those are going to be the placements that you want to look out for, or the transits that you're going to look out for. Also true. And the really big fates, man, the like really big ones. Oh my gosh. If you ever have a transit in the sky that is conjunct, like there's a conjunction happening in the sky that happens to also be conjunct with something at the same degree of a placement in your chart, get ready, because there's definitely a fate meeting you. How did you prepare? How were you walking towards that conjunction? Because one of the constructions that I keep for fate is that how I meet fate is how fate meets me. mirrors, right? So if I'm walking kindly in the world and I'm doing certain sorts of work, okay, well, that's how fate's gonna meet me. If I do it over and over and over again and I weave it over and over and over and over and over and over again, okay, fate eventually there's gonna be like a really big crossing. That's at least how I read it, okay? And that's how I work with it. So may you be able to receive what you need from that, because there's a lot of different spaces of information with that one. But anyways, gratitude, reverence, and love to you. Keep up your brew, keep doing what you need to do. Like I said, I think November is going to be a pretty fated month, to be honest. It's pretty good. I'm pretty excited. The end of Pluto and Capricorn. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.